Welcome back. In this video, we are discussing on different question answers that has appeared in the past papers in Mumbai University exams for first year BA LLB students, semester 1. We are going through a series of question and answers in these videos, rather long videos. These questions have appeared in the past papers, so I'm taking it up. My request is that ignore all the background sounds, the cars honking, the birds chirping, uh, whatever, the my cats meowing and all of that. Ignore all of that and just focus on the questions and answers, because that is what is ultimately going to count in a few days. I can't help it. It's nature, and nature will take its own course, and I have no control over it. Thank you very much. So let's start now. Discuss the factors responsible for the growth of population in India. So we are going to talk about why the population is increasing in India. What are the reasons, or what are the factors for the growth of population in India? The growth of population in India is influenced by a combination of social, economic, cultural and health related factors. I've covered this growth of population in India, not in India specifically, but not generalized to India, but overall in my earlier videos also. But it was not specifically a detailed focus on all the factors. So we are going to go through this one at a time. Now, the influence or what influences the population in India, the growth of population in India is three or four factors, main important, basically combinations of these. One is social factor, that is society, economic factor, whether you have money, whether you're rich, poor, what category you fall into, culture, what does your culture say, and your health related factors also, young population, old population, and so on. So let's understand the key reasons behind the population growth in India. All right. Need to keep saying all right again and again. Okay. The key reasons behind this population growth in India will, if you understand these key reasons, then this will help in drafting policies and strategies for managing this demographic change. So, if you want to control the population or strategize something about the population, then we have to understand the key reasons for this growth. Now, what are the main factors responsible for this growth? First is the high birth rate, common sense, and decreasing mortality rate. Mortality rate means death rate. So death rate is going down. People are not dying that much as they used to earlier. I'm not saying that they should die, but the death rate is reducing and birth rate is going up. So of course the population will grow. More children are being born, less people are dying. So population will grow, of course. Now, in the high birth rate, we have further 4 points. Preferences, cultural preferences for large families. Many people, or many married couples, or their families also, they they prefer, they like to have large families. They don't like to have just one child, or one boy or one girl. They want some sibling for them also, and they have also grown in larger families, so they therefore prefer more children. So many parts of India, there is a cultural, that is in their culture only it is there, and social preferences are also there because of societal pressure and everything to have large families. This is especially observed in villages or rural areas. Of course, when it comes from culture or societal preferences, It is basically rooted in the tradition itself that the couple should have more children to ensure better support for parents in old age. So that is the mentality that who will support us in our old age, so our children will do that. So more children will be much better, and to maintain the family's prestige as well. So these are all notional ideas of the traditional concepts of the large family, and that has been going on even today. Early marriage is again one of the reasons which is happening even today at the age of 18 or 19 or even earlier also in the villages, 16 years. I personally know of people, especially from villages, who get their children or their girls married at a very early age because of societal pressure, which is very true. There is a lot of cultural and societal pressures on parents to get the children married off early. Early marriage, which is quite common in certain regions in the rural areas, as I spoke about. There, the girls are often married before the age of 18. Very true it is. Early marriages, they contribute towards longer reproductive years for women. Now, the reproductive years is approximately, I suppose, 45 or so, approximately on an average, I'm saying, which leads to higher birth rates because now you have duration from 18 till or maybe 16 till 45. So, which this leads to more birth rates, more children taking birth because of the higher or longer reproductive years for women. It's not that they keep producing, but or they keep giving birth to many children, but even 5, 6, 7, uh, we all have come across children in one for one couple. High fertility rate. Now, despite improvement in education and awareness, the fertility rate in India remains higher than in many other countries. Fertility means how many women can give birth in 1000. So that is very high. Fertility rate means how many children are born to a woman of reproductive age. That is basically between 15 to 49 years. So my estimation was correct, 45 years. Now the fertility rate, that is how many children are born to a woman in their reproductive age group, is very high compared to other countries. The average number of children per woman, this is decreasing, but it is still higher than the replacement level of 2.1 children per woman. That is on an average for women in India. Each woman are they are having two children, 2.1 children. Of course, we can consider one, but it's because it's an average. So I'm saying 2.1 children per woman. There is a lack of awareness and family planning. A wide a lack of widespread awareness. Although government is taking many efforts in spreading awareness about family planning methods, and it has been going on since independence also. This is especially we see a lot of this awareness being spread in urban areas also, but more so in rural areas. Even then, in spite of that, there is higher birth rate. Family planning programs are being promoted, but there is still limited access to contraceptive methods in certain areas. So, the contraceptive methods, few of them are like birth control pills or contraceptive implants, injections are there. Uh, Then we have condoms and other things for having for doing family planning methods. Let's move on to the decreasing mortality rate. Improvement in healthcare. Of course, medical technology and advancement in the healthcare, this has led to significant decrease in the death rates. There has been improvement in the number of hospitals that are being built by government and by private individuals. The medical staff and the healthcare facilities is improving, and this has led to higher life expectancy and lower mortality rate. Nutrition and sanitation, that has also helped in lowering death rates. Improved living standards, better nutrition, availability of clean drinking water, which is very important to to avoid the spread of diseases, and sanitation facilities like building toilets and everything in the households, in the villages especially. This has greatly reduced the death rates among infants and children. Nutrition is very important. Vaccinations and controlling diseases. Widespread vaccination programs and the control of diseases like polio, malaria, tuberculosis. These have also contributed sharp decline in death rates of especially among infants and children. They are more prone to polio, malaria, tuberculosis like diseases. And because of the vaccination by the government, vaccination programs being run by the government, that has uh, contributed greatly into decrease of death rates, especially among the children. Next, let's look at the advances in public health and medicine. India has implemented large-scale immunization program, that is vaccination programs, or building up immunity of the children. Then this has reduced child mortality rates, death rates, by preventing infectious diseases like polio, malaria, and tuberculosis. Better medical facility treatments are available. Improved healthcare infrastructure is there, and that has increased the life expectancy and reduced the impact of both communicable and non-communicable diseases. That is that which can be spread by contact, even by through air also. So, because of these advancements in medical and medicines and pharmaceutical industries, the life expectancy has increased. People have access to healthcare facilities, especially the government's efforts that has provided a lot of affordable healthcare initiatives like National Health Mission, Jan Ashuddhi Kendras have improved the health of the population, thereby reducing the death rates. We see a lot of municipalities also taking up these healthcare initiatives where poor people can go and get free of charge or free of any fees treatment through these healthcare facilities. Economic factors. Of course, there is a improvement in living standards because of economic development. So, because of higher income, better housing, and better living conditions, having clean water, sanitation, this has also contributed to decline in mortality rates. So, it is not just about higher population growth rates, what are the factors, but it is also about the death rate is going down, the mortality rate is going down because of all these factors of improved standard of living. It is not that it should not happen, people should not improve their standard of living, but of course at that same time the population is growing because of this. Earlier, before 1940s 30s, the or even 1900s, the average age was around 35 40 years, 45 years of death. So by the age of 45, 50, people used to die because of lack of medicine, clean water, clean drinking water, and sanitation and all of that. The malaria, there's no vaccination programs at that time. But now all of because of all of these features, because of all of these facilities, this technological upgradation, modernization, higher incomes, people are enjoying good healthcare, and because of that their life expectancy is going up. Nothing wrong in that. Economic growth has also led to greater urbanization, that is, people are moving from villages to cities, and higher population densities in the cities also. Many people are moving, many people and like in hordes are moving from villages to cities in search of job, because there is lack of job, money, facilities in the villages, so they move towards the cities, and the population density in the cities are increasing. The availability of employment opportunities in urban areas that also attracts people from rural areas, which contributes to urbanization and population growth in cities. Now, with better housing, transportation, roads are being developed, communication infrastructure is being there, mobile facilities there in for everyone. Even the poorest of poor can afford a phone now. Urbanization has led to population growth in cities. People are moving from villages to cities, and this has created a cycle where economic development attracts more people. So wherever there is economic development, people will go for work, to find work, to earn money, to earn livelihood, for better future, for better prospect, which in turn supports further economic growth. So this is a cycle which will further lead to more economic growth, and for better facilities, and then higher life expectancy. Social and cultural factors. Religious beliefs. In many parts of India and many other countries also, there are a lot of religious beliefs which encourage large families. Some communities value the idea of having multiple children for religious or cultural reasons. Pardon me for my slip of tongue. Gender bias. I'm not even sure how many people will reach this, so it doesn't matter, I suppose. Gender bias, a preference for male children over female children. Right, here this is one of the gender bias is one of the important points, especially in certain regions, has led to the practice of having more children to ensure, especially more male children, to ensure the birth of male offspring. So many people prefer male children over female children, especially in certain regions, and that has led to the practice of having more children to ensure the birth of male offspring. So they'll continue having children until they get a male offspring. Although this has started to change with increasing awareness, the preference for male children still persists in some areas. So this is still true. Regional beliefs, religious beliefs also matter. Lack of women's empowerment. In certain parts of the country, limited access to education and economic opportunities for women leads to early marriages. Since they are not educated and they don't have any source of livelihood, they are they are made to marry at a very early age and have larger families. The empowerment of women, when women are educated and they have uh, opportunity for participating in economic activities, that would help reduce the birth rates over time. Migration. Why does the population of a region increase? Because of either internal migration or international migration. So when people migrate from a rural, that is from village to cities, for better opportunities, for job opportunities, for education, or for living standards, then the population of that particular region will increase. That is, population of cities will increase. And this has contributed significantly to the growth of metropolitan areas where the population is above certain lakhs of people in per square feet area or certain area. International migration. Here, what is happening is people are migrating from India, or people are migrating to India from countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and a lot of people from India also migrating to countries like US, UK, Europe. There the population is increasing, and here people are coming from Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka into India due to the political instability in those places or better economic opportunities in India. So people are immigrating to India. This also contributes to growth of the population. Government policies and programs, family planning programs. Government has made efforts to control population growth by introducing family planning programs, but its implementation still remains a challenge, especially in rural areas. Now, despite all these efforts, cultural norms, again the same thing, norms, societal pressure, religious beliefs, the resistance to contraceptive use limits the success of such programs. People are still not using contraceptive use to for having less children. So they are still avoiding that. Public awareness campaigns. The government and non-governmental organizations have launched awareness campaigns promoting family program, maternal health, that is mother's health, and child welfare. But awareness and access remains inconsistent across the regions. Technological advancements. Technological advancements in agriculture has increased food production, leading to reduced starvation and malnutrition. Although this is good thing, but this has also helped in reducing starvation death and malnutrition deaths. This has supported population growth by improving the overall health and nutritional status of the population. So the overall health, because of higher food production, less starvation or reduced starvation and malnutrition, and higher protein intakes, has helped the health of the population, overall health of the population, as well as the nutritional status of the population. Improvement in medical technologies. This has also helped. Medicines have come in, diagnostics has come in, and treatments have contributed to longer lifespans. There are a lot of mohalla clinics and healthcare facilities in villages where people can go for their medical emergencies, their medical needs. And this has contributed to population growth, especially among older adults. Urbanization. Once again, people are migrating to cities in search for better education, employment, and healthcare, and this has resulted in increased population concentration in urban areas. This has led to a higher population growth rate in cities. Urban centers provide better healthcare because we know that in cities we have good hospitals, doctors, and a lot of people come from villages to cities for their healthcare related needs. So urban centers provide better healthcare, education also, and economic opportunities so that they can earn more money, leading to a higher standard of living and reduced mortality rates. The urban growth attracts more people, creating a cycle of population growth. Globalization. Now the whole world has become almost one. People can travel very easily from one place to another place. The increased integration of India into the global economy has led to improvements in various sectors such as trade, industry, and service. This has contributed to urbanization and migration of people to urban centers, resulting in population growth. Alright, so let's move on to the next one. Next question. National Agricultural Policy NAP of 2000. We have to do analysis of that. The National Agricultural Policy NAP of 2000, which was introduced by Government of India, what was its aim? It was to address the challenges faced by agricultural sector. That is why the National Agricultural Policy was drafted and implemented. It came into effect. Improving the productivity of the agriculture. First, address the challenges faced by agricultural sector, then improve the productivity of the agriculture and ensure food security for the growing population. So these are three main aims of the NAP, National Agricultural Policy of 2000. That is, address the challenges faced by agricultural sector, improve the productivity of agriculture, and ensure food security for the growing population. Three things. The policy was designed to provide a comprehensive framework for sustainable agricultural development and to address issues like low productivity. Why productivity in agriculture is low? That also needs to be addressed, and for that NAP came into effect. Inadequate infrastructure. Infrastructure would include irrigation, seeds, high quality seeds, and so on, and changing demands of the economy. Let's learn about the objectives of why the NAP was there. Its aim we already saw. Now we are looking at its objectives. The National Agricultural Policy of 2000 laid down several key objectives that aimed at improving the agricultural sector. What was the main reason for getting NAP? So what are their objectives, main reasons? One was food security, very important for a country. Ensuring adequate supply of food grains for the entire population by improving domestic food production. This is one of the most important reasons. Food security, otherwise India has to go to other countries for their food needs. Sustainability. Promoting sustainable agricultural practices that protect and conserve the natural resource base, that is the soil health. Government has worked a lot on the soil health, crop rotation and all of that. Educating the farmers about the improvements in technologies, the use of seeds, irrigation facilities and all of that. Sprinkler system and all of that. Higher productivity. Enhancing productivity in agriculture to meet the growing demand for food due to population growth. Population is growing, the demand for food is growing, and that can be only met when there is higher productivity through agricultural activities. Economic viability. Increasing the income of farmers is very important, because only then they will be motivated to continue doing the farming and improve their standard of living as well as. Because we see a lot of farmers their standard of living is also very poor, even today also. Increasing the income of farmers and improving their standard of living is one of the objectives of NAP. Equitable growth, ensuring that the benefits of agricultural growth reaches all sections of the society, particularly small and marginal farmers, very important. Export competitiveness, encouraging agricultural exports to tap into the global market and increase the foreign exchange earnings from agriculture. So there are 6 main objectives. One was the food security, which is very important for the country and the growing population. Food security is very important. Sustainability. The agricultural practices should be sustainable. Higher productivity would include meet the growing demands for food due to population growth. Increasing the income of the farmers, that is economic viability. The growth should be equitable, that is all sections of the farmers small as well as marginal farmers should be able to get benefit of agricultural growth, which would include your loan facilities, funding, technology, equipments, and so on. And export competitiveness, that is, more foreign exchange should be coming from agriculture sector. Key features of NAP: sustainable agriculture. This is one of the feature. This is same as objectives. The policy emphasizes the sustainability of agriculture by promoting methods that conserve soil, water, and biodiversity, all three. It encourages the use of organic farming, rainwater harvesting, and eco-friendly pest management to reduce dependence on chemical inputs. Fertilizers and chemicals are being used in the farming, but NAP's main feature, which is very important, is organic farming, rainwater harvesting, that is, utilizing the rainwater and during the off seasons, and harvesting it, that is, conserving it when there is rains. During the rains, you conserve the water, then you reutilize it during the period of during the throughout the period when there are no rains, that is off season. Eco-friendly pest management to reduce dependency on chemical inputs. Increase in agricultural productivity. This is one of the feature. Policy recognizes that productivity in Indian agriculture needs to be enhanced to meet the growing demand for food. It encourages the use of modern technology, improved seeds, better irrigation techniques, and fertilizers to improve crop yield. A major thrust was given to the development of high-yielding varieties and enhancing productivity of non-food crops such as oilseeds, pulses, and commercial crops. Institutional support. NAP emphasizes the strengthening of institutions involved in agricultural development such as research and extension services, rural credit, and input supply systems. It also calls for rural infrastructure development in terms of storage, transportation, and marketing facilities to reduce post-harvest losses. It is also very important that the produce of the farmers is not lost or due to damages or due to non-storages. Promotion of export-oriented agriculture. A significant focus on the policy is to enhance the export potential of Indian agriculture. The policy suggests reducing restrictions on agricultural exports and promoting agro-processing industries. This is aimed at increasing foreign exchange earnings and creating more market opportunities for Indian farmers. Farmer welfare. The policy includes measures to improve the welfare of farmers, particularly the small and the marginal farmers. This includes access to credit at affordable rates, price support systems to ensure fair prices for farmers' produce, minimum support price, that is, insurance schemes to protect farmers from natural calamities and crop failures. There is a lack of implementation. That is the problem. Otherwise, all these schemes introduced by the government are very good, but on the ground level, how much of it is being actually implemented, that is what matters ultimately. Water and irrigation management. Since water is critical input in agriculture, the policy recognizes the need for efficient water management and the development of irrigation infrastructure. It advocates for micro irrigation techniques like drip irrigation to save on water, sprinkler irrigation to reduce water wastage and improve crop yields. The policy emphasizes the need to rejuvenate traditional water systems such as tanks, ponds, canals to ensure sustainable water use. Focus on rural employment. The policy recognizes that agriculture should not only produce food but also provide employment in rural areas. It stresses the creation of rural non-farm employment opportunities, which would contribute to poverty reduction and rural development. Now, what is non-farm employment? Means poultry and other basic different types of sheep rearing and all of that. The employment generation program should be linked with agricultural productivity and diversification. Gender and social inclusion. A key feature of NAP is that the policy aims to improve gender equality and social inclusion in agriculture. Women who play a significant role in farming were targeted for training and capacity building in various agricultural practices. Diversification and agro-processing. The policy promotes agricultural diversification to ensure that farmers are not overly dependent on single crop. This includes the promotion of horticulture, floriculture, flori means for flowers, and medicinal plants. Agro-processing industries are given a boost to add value to raw agricultural produce, reduce wastage and create employment in rural areas. R&D. The policy highlights the importance of agricultural research and technology in driving agricultural growth. It emphasizes the need for greater investment in agricultural research and the transfer of new technologies to farmers. It promotes genetic engineering and biotechnology in developing pest resistant and high yielding crop varieties. Strengths of NAP. Holistic approach. We'll also understand the weakness, which is very important. The policy provides a comprehensive and integrated approach to improving agricultural productivity while ensuring environmental sustainability, rural employment, and farmers' welfare. Focus on sustainability. The emphasis on sustainable agricultural practices is a significant strength as it aims to safeguard the natural resource base for future generations. Export competitiveness. By focusing on export-oriented agriculture, the policy seeks to tap into global markets, helping farmers increase their incomes and contributing to nations' foreign exchange reserves. Okay, export competitiveness is also important. This we have already gone through above. Institutional reforms. The recognition of the importance of strengthening agricultural institutions such as research, credit, and marketing was a progressive step. This is of core importance. Inclusive growth. Policy aimed to address the concerns of small and marginal farmers and ensure that the benefits of agricultural growth are shared equitably across all sections of the society. Let's move on to the weakness and criticism of NAP. Implementation challenges. While the policy outlined ambitious goals, its implementation faced many challenges. The lack of proper coordination among various government agencies and insufficient monitoring mechanisms led to delays in achieving the intended outcomes. Limited focus on agriculture finance. Although the policy emphasized the need for credit and financial support to farmers, there were gaps in ensuring timely and affordable access to credit, especially for small and marginal farmers. Dependence on monsoon. Despite the focus on irrigation, the Indian agricultural sector remained heavily dependent on monsoon rains, which made it vulnerable to climatic variations and natural disasters like droughts and floods. Inadequate focus on rural infrastructure. While the policy acknowledged the importance of rural infrastructure, the implementation of infrastructure projects such as roads, storage facilities, and markets was slow and insufficient. Limited impact on poverty reduction. The policy's focus on enhancing agricultural productivity and export competitiveness did not fully address the poverty and inequality in rural areas, as many small and marginal farmers did not benefit from the growth in the agricultural sector. To conclude, the National Agricultural Policy of 2000 marked an important step toward revitalizing the agricultural sector in India. It provided a framework for achieving food security, increasing agricultural productivity, and promoting sustainable farming practices While the policy had several strengths such as promoting sustainability, increasing export competitiveness, and supporting rural employment, its challenges lay in slow and uneven implementation across regions and sectors. For the policy to achieve its objective effectively, strategic reforms in areas such as agricultural finance, infrastructure development, and better support for small farmers are essential. There is a need for continued government focus on research and development, climate resistant agriculture, and inclusive growth to ensure agricultural sector remains viable and competitive in the long term. Moving on to the next question, discuss the structure of Indian money market. Earlier in the previous video or video before that, we had gone through the capital market. Now we are going through Indian money market. Structure of the Indian money market. The Indian money market refers to the segments. Earlier we saw money market is investments for less than 1 year. So the Indian money market refers to the segment of the financial market where short-term borrowing and lending, typically with maturities of 1 year or less, takes place. It involves the trading of short-term instruments such as treasury bills, commercial papers, and repurchase agreements, and it plays a crucial role in ensuring liquidity in the economy. The Indian money market functions under the supervision of RBI, which acts as the central authority responsible for regulating and managing the market. The structure of the Indian money market is made up of various institutions, instruments, and markets that facilitate the efficient flow of funds. It is divided into organized or formal markets and unorganized or informal markets. Components of the Indian money market. The Indian money market consists of the following main components. Organized money market. The organized or formal money market includes financial institutions and instruments that are regulated by the RBI. This segment includes commercial banks. They are the primary players in the money market. They accept deposits and lend short-term loan to individuals, businesses, and the government. They also participate in the call money market and repurchase agreements, repos. Cooperative banks. So first we had commercial banks, now we have cooperative banks. Similar to commercial banks, cooperative banks also play a role in providing short-term loans to individuals and businesses. However, they operate primarily in the rural and semi-urban areas. Nowadays we get cooperative banks even in urban areas. Non-banking financial companies, NBFCs. These are financial institutions that provide short-term loans and credit facilities. NBFCs also participate in money market by borrowing and lending short-term funds. Non-banking financial companies. Reserve Bank of India. The Central Bank of India plays a vital role in regulating the money market. It acts as the lender of the last resort, manages the country's money supply, and ensures the stability of the financial system. The RBI also conducts open market operations and uses other tools to manage liquidity and interest rates. Next, instruments of the money market. So they can give us a separate category of what are the different instruments of money market, or what is organized money market. So we are covering everything in one question itself. Don't think that it's too long. It is not. The organized money market in India comprises a variety of financial instruments which are used for short-term borrowing and lending. The main instruments include treasury bills, T-bills. Treasury bills are short-term debt instruments issued by the Government of India to meet its short-term funding requirement. They have maturities of 91 days, 182 days, 364 days. T-bills are sold throughout auctions and are considered they are sold through auctions and are considered a safe investment. CPs, commercial papers. Commercial papers are unsecured, short-term debt instruments issued by large companies, financial institutions, and other corporations. These papers have maturity ranging from 7 days to 1 year and are used by companies to raise working capital, commercial papers. Treasury bills are issued by the government to raise their short-term funding requirement. Certificate of deposit. Certificates of deposit are time deposits. That is, they are deposits for a fixed time, issued by commercial banks to individuals, businesses, and financial institutions. These are basically fixed deposits in another way, or recurring deposits, or different deposits that bank issues to individuals, businesses, and financial institutions. These instruments have fixed maturity, typically ranging from 7 days to 1 year, and offer higher interest rates than regular savings account. Even for more than 1 year are also available, but then they will not fall under the money market. Repurchase agreements, repos. A repurchase agreement is a short-term borrowing agreement where one party sells securities such as government bonds or T-bills to another party with an agreement to repurchase them at a later date at a higher price. Repos are used by banks and financial institutions to manage short-term liquidity needs. Call money market. The call money market is a segment of money market where short-term borrowings and lending transactions are carried out, typically for 1 day. Commercial banks lend to each other in this market at an interest rate known as the call money rate. Reverse repo. In a reverse repo transaction, the RBI borrows money from commercial banks by selling government securities and agrees to repurchase them at a later date. This is issued by RBI to absorb excess liquidity in the market. Let's look at the participants in the money market. This question also comes separately. Various entities participate in the Indian money market. Banks and financial institutions. These institutions are the primary players in the money market. They participate in activities such as lending and borrowing short-term funds, investing in money market instruments, and participating in repo and reverse repo operations. We already discussed what is repo and reverse repo. Corporations and businesses. Companies issue commercial papers (CP) and participate in the call money market to manage their short-term funding requirements. RBI plays a pivotal role in regulating and controlling liquidity in the money market. It conducts open market operations and uses instruments like repo rates, reverse repo rates, and CRR, cash reserve ratio, to influence short-term interest rates and money supply. Government. The Indian government also issues treasury bills to manage short-term financing requirements. Okay, next is money market dealers, primary dealers, and brokerage firms. These are specialized institutions that deal in government securities and are authorized by the RBI. They play a key role in ensuring the smooth functioning of the money market by acting as intermediaries between the government and investors. Brokerage firms are intermediary entities that facilitate transactions in the money market by acting as brokers between buyers and sellers of money market instruments. So we were covering the components structure of money market, Indian money market. Out of that, first one was component of the Indian money market. Second one is unorganized or informal money market. Previously we saw formal money market. Now informal. In addition to the organized money market, the unorganized or informal money market exists, which includes a range of non-institutional sources of short-term credit. The informal market is often characterized by higher interest rates and lacks regulatory oversights. Let us look at the sources of credit from unregulated or unorganized or informal money market. Money lenders. Traditional money lenders or informal lenders provide short-term loans to individuals or businesses, especially in rural areas where access to formal banking services may be limited. Chit funds. Chit funds are a form of savings and borrowing mechanism in which a group of individuals contribute a fixed amount every month. One member of the group can avail a loan against their share, and the amount is decided through bidding or a lottery system. Informal loan agreements. People often resort to informal loan agreements with family members, friends, or community members for short term funding needs. Let's look at the challenges of the informal market. Very high interest rate, lack of transparency, credit risk. The unorganized money market typically has higher interest rates compared to formal markets due to the lack of regulatory control. The transactions in the informal money market are often not recorded or regulated, leading to a lack of transparency. This in turn creates a high credit risk. The absence of any formal contract or regulation increases credit risk in the informal money market. Third is the role of RBI in the money market. The Reserve Bank of India plays a central role in functioning of the money market by regulating the money market, conducting open market operations, setting policy rates and monitoring systemic risk. RBI sets policy and frameworks for functioning of the money market, ensuring stability and liquidity in the system. Open market operations are key tools used by RBI to manage liquidity in the system by buying or selling government securities. If RBI feels or if government feels that there is a very high inflation, then it may suck out money from the market or from the economy. Setting policy rates. RBI uses instruments such as repo rates, reverse repo rates, and cash reserve ratio to influence money market liquidity and interest rates. Monitoring systemic risk. RBI monitors the risks in the money market and implements measures to ensure the safety and soundness of the financial system. Just to recap the conclusion, the Indian money market plays a crucial role in maintaining financial stability and ensuring liquidity in the economy. The market is structured with a combination of formal institutions such as banks, financial institutions, and the RBI, as well as informal sources of credit in rural areas. The formal money market includes a wide range of short term instruments such as treasury bills, commercial papers, and certificate of deposits, and plays a central role in regulating liquidity and controlling interest rates in the economy. The informal money market, while providing easy access to credit in undeserved areas, remains unregulated and often involves higher risks. The effective functioning of the Indian money market requires constant monitoring by the RBI, reforms to enhance access to financial services, and measures to address the challenges in the informal market. Next, let's look at the drawbacks of wealth definition of economics defined by Adam Smith. Adam Smith's definition of economics, often referred to as the wealth definition, views economics primarily as the study of how nations can create wealth. Smith's definition is rooted in his seminal work, The Wealth of Nations, where he defined economics as the science of wealth production, and the mechanisms that contribute to it. According to Smith, the wealth of a nation is created through the accumulation of goods and services, and economics should focus on how to maximize wealth of a country. However, this definition has been subject to criticism over time, and several drawbacks have been identified. Narrow focus on material wealth. Smith's definition limits economics to the accumulation of material wealth, often overlooking non-material aspects of human welfare. In his time, the goal of economic activity was largely associated with increasing physical goods and services. It ignored other important facets of economic life, such as quality of life, happiness, health, and education. These factors, which are now considered crucial to the well-being of individuals and societies, were not part of his economic framework. Ignores the distribution of wealth. Smith's focus on wealth as the goal of economics fails to address the distribution of wealth among individuals and groups within a society. Wealth creation may not necessarily result in equitable outcomes or improve the standard of living for all members of society. This oversight ignores the issue of inequality, where a society may accumulate wealth, but it may be concentrated in the hands of a few, leaving a large section of the population in poverty. Overemphasis on materialism. Smith's view tends to overemphasize materialism as the central goal of human activity. By focusing solely on wealth, the definition overlooks the importance of spiritual, ethical, or psychological aspects of economic life. Next is overemphasis on materialism. Smith's view tends to overemphasize materialism as the central goal of human activity. By focusing solely on wealth, the definition overlooks the importance of spiritual, ethical, or psychological aspects of economic life. In modern times, it has become clear that societies cannot be understood merely by the goods and services they produce. Aspects like sustainability, social welfare, and cultural well being play vital roles in shaping the true prosperity of nations. Inability to address market failures and externalities. Smith's framework does not account for occurrence of market failures such as externalities, which means unintended side effects like pollution, monopolies, or income disparities that arise during wealth creation. This means that in Smith's model, market outcomes are always assumed to be beneficial or efficient, which is not the case in real world markets. Modern economics recognizes the need for government intervention to address these failures and ensure the overall well being of society. No consideration for environmental sustainability. The wealth definition of economics does not factor in the importance of the environmental sustainability. Smith's framework assumes that wealth can be created without considering the long term impact on natural resources or environment. In the modern world, it is understood that overexploitation of resources can lead to ecological degradation, climate change, and depletion of natural capital. The focus on wealth alone is incompatible with concerns about sustainable development. Lack of attention to human welfare. Adam Smith's definition centers on wealth without much regard for the welfare of individuals. He considers economic growth as a means to improve the conditions of nations, but this definition did not account for aspects like poverty reduction, healthcare, and human development. A nation could have an increase in wealth without improving the actual well being of its citizens. Modern economics emphasizes human development as an important aspect of economic progress, focusing not just on the creation of wealth but also on quality of life. Lack of consideration for services and knowledge. The wealth definition is heavily focused on tangible goods and fails to take into account the growing importance of services and intellectual property in the modern economy. Smith's time was more focused on agriculture and manufacturing, but today's economies are much more service oriented, with technology, education, and healthcare being key contributors to wealth. This omission leads to an incomplete understanding of the modern economy, where sectors like technology, finance, and education are central to wealth generation. Static view of wealth creation. Smith's concept of wealth creation is static in nature, focusing on increasing wealth without necessarily focusing on how it is created or how its growth can change in response to innovation, globalization, and technological progress. This narrow view doesn't account for the dynamic, evolving nature of modern economies. It lacks an understanding of how factors like innovation, entrepreneurship, and global trade significantly influence wealth generation today. Next, let's move on. Arguments against economics. That is, economics is science. The debate on whether economics is a science has been ongoing for years. While many regard economics as a science because it uses systematic method of inquiry, statistical techniques, and models to analyze economic phenomena, others argue that it does not meet the strict criteria of a science in the traditional sense. Below are some of the key arguments against considering economics as a science. Lack of universality. Unlike natural sciences such as physics or chemistry, economics does not have universal laws that apply across all contexts and situations. The laws of physics, for example, are universally applicable, regardless of the location or time. In contrast, economic principles may change depending on the social, cultural, and historical context. Economic behavior in a developed country might differ significantly from that in a developing country. Similarly, the impact of certain policies can vary based on regional characteristics or times of economic crisis. The lack of universal law challenges the classification of economics as a science, as natural sciences are based on universally applicable laws and theories. Human behavior is unpredictable. We'll do only 4 points in this. One of the key principles of scientific study is the ability to predict outcomes with a high degree of certainty based on controlled experiments or mathematical models. However, economics deals with human behavior, which is inherently unpredictable and influenced by a vast range of factors such as emotions, politics, social pressures, and cultural differences. Lack of controlled experiments. Unlike natural sciences, economics cannot conduct controlled experiments in the same way. In scientific fields like chemistry or biology, experiments can be controlled and variables can be isolated and tested. In economics, it is impossible to create a perfect laboratory setting to test economic theories without real world variables interfering. For example, policies such as tax cuts, interest rate changes, or welfare programs cannot be tested in isolated, controlled condition, making it difficult to understand the true impact of a policy. The influence of normative elements. Economics is not purely positive, that is descriptive, but also contains significant normative, that is prescriptive elements. Positive economics seeks to understand what is, while normative economics involves judgments about what ought to be. Many economic theories are influenced by subjective opinions on how society should function, leading to value laden conclusions. For example, debates about income redistribution, taxation, or minimum wage laws often involve moral or ethical considerations which go beyond purely objective analysis. We'll do only 4 of them. We'll skip the rest of them. What is social cost? Social cost refers to the total cost to society of an economic activity, including both private costs and external costs or negative externalities that are not borne by the individuals or firms involved in the activity but by society as a whole. It reflects the total impact of an economic decision on both the individuals directly involved and the wider community. Components of social cost. Private cost. These are the costs incurred by individual or firm directly involved in the activity. For example, the cost of producing a good or service, including expenses like labor, raw material and equipment, and external cost. These are the costs imposed on society or third parties who are not directly involved in the economic activity. These costs arise from negative externalities such as pollution, noise, congestion, or depletion of natural resources. External costs are often not reflected in market prices. For example, a factory producing goods might incur costs in terms of wages, raw materials, and machinery. These are private costs, but it may also generate air pollution that affects the health of nearby residents, or it may contribute to climate change, external costs. The residents or society bear these external costs, not the factory owners. Social cost is equal to private cost plus external cost divided by social cost. Whereas private cost is the cost incurred by producer or consumer, external cost is the cost imposed on others who are not part of the transaction or activity. Example of social cost. Consider a scenario where a factory is producing goods and in the process it emits pollution into the air. The factory incurs private costs for raw materials, labor and machinery of around $1 lakh. However, the pollution created by the factory imposes costs on nearby residents in the form of health problems, environmental damages, and reduced property values. These external costs might total $30,000. The social cost of the factory's production is 1,30,000. That is the private cost and the external cost. Importance of social costs in economics. Market failure. Social cost is important because if markets do not account for external costs, they may lead to market failure, where the true cost of production or consumption is not reflected in market price. This can result in overproduction or overconsumption of goods that generate negative externalities, leading to inefficiency in the economy. Policy implications. Understanding social costs can help policymakers design taxes, subsidies, or regulations such as carbon taxes or pollution caps to internalize these externalities. By doing so, they encourage producers or consumers to account for the broader costs of these activities. Cost benefit analysis. The concept of social cost is crucial in performing cost benefit analysis when evaluating public policies or projects. By considering both private and external costs, policymakers can make more informed decisions about which activities are desirable for society. In conclusion, social costs provide a comprehensive understanding of the true economic cost of an activity, considering not just the private costs incurred by the individuals or firms, but also the external costs imposed on society. When externalities are not accounted for in decision making, it can lead to inefficient outcomes, and social costs become an important tool for correcting such market failures and ensuring the overall welfare of the society. Next, let us check what is density of population or population density. Population density is a measure of the number of people living per unit of area, typically expressed as the number of individuals per square kilometer or square mile. It is an important demographic indicator that helps to understand how crowded or sparsely populated a given area is. The formula for calculating population density is population density equals to total population divided by total area, where total population is the number of people living in the area and total area is the size of the area in square kilometers or square miles. What is density of population? Population density is a measure of the number of people living per unit of area, typically expressed as the number of individuals per square kilometer या किलोमीटर स्क्वायर और स्क्वायर माइल, मतलब एक स्क्वायर किलोमीटर में कितने लोग रहते हैं वो डिटरमाइन उसको बोलते हैं पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी. वो मेजर है पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी का. वो नॉर्मली हम लोग किलोमीटर स्क्वायर में बोलते हैं उसको. इट इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट डेमोग्राफिक इंडिकेटर दैट हेल्प्स टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ क्राउडेड और स्पार्सली पॉपुलेटेड गिवन एरिया इज. तो इससे हमको मालूम पड़ता है कि एक स्क्वायर किलोमीटर में कितने लोग हैं. उससे हमको मालूम पड़ता है कि उसमें कितना क्राउडेड है वो या कितना कम पॉपुलेटेड है वो. फॉर्मूला फॉर पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी: टोटल पॉपुलेशन डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल एरिया. सपोज एक स्क्वायर किलोमीटर में से 10 लाख लोग हैं, 10 lakhs लोग, तो ये पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी हो गया पर स्क्वायर किलोमीटर 10 lakh पीपल. ओके, एग्जाम्पल ऑफ डेंसिटी कैलकुलेशन. सपोज अ सिटी हैज अ पॉपुलेशन ऑफ 5 lakh पीपल and cover an area of 250 kilometer square, 250 किलोमीटर स्क्वायर किलोमीटर. The population density will be 2000 people per kilometer square. और ऊपर के एग्जाम्पल में पर किलोमीटर स्क्वायर 10 lakh people और यहाँ पर 2000 people are staying per kilometer square, मतलब एक किलोमीटर में 2000 लोग रह रहे हैं. ऑलराइट, इसका फायदा क्या है? व्हाट आर सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी? तो एक तो अर्बन प्लानिंग कर सकता है गवर्नमेंट, लोकल म्यूनिसिपैलिटी. तो अर्बन प्लानिंग एंड रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट. पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी प्रोवाइड्स इंपॉर्टेंट इंसाइट्स फॉर अर्बन प्लानिंग इंक्लूडिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन सिस्टम, हेल्थ केयर एंड एजुकेशन. हम लोग देखते हैं कि जैसे सिटीज में कैसे होता है कि जितना ज्यादा पॉपुलेशन उतना ज्यादा प्लानिंग होता है. ब्रिजेस बनते हैं, रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट बनता है, हेल्थ केयर का अच्छे फैसिलिटीज मिलती है, एजुकेशन के अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूशंस बनते हैं. तो वो पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी के हिसाब से बनता है. तो गवर्नमेंट विल फोकस मोर ऑन एन एरिया विच इज हाईली डेंस और हाईली पॉपुलेटेड. हाई पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी में इंडिकेट अ नीड फॉर बेटर पब्लिक सर्विसेज एंड हाउसिंग. ऑटोमेटिकली क्या होता है, जैसे कोई एक जगह पे पॉपुलेशन बढ़ते जाता है तो वहां के लोग डिमांड भी करना चालू करते हैं और वो हिसाब से वहां की जो म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज है उसको वो हिसाब से सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करती है. इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट. एरियाज विथ हाई पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी आर ऑफन एसोसिएटेड विथ अर्बनाइजेशन. तो जहां पे भी पॉपुलेशन ज्यादा रहेगा उसको हम लोग नॉर्मली सिटीज बोलते हैं या अर्बन एरियाज बोलते हैं. एंड मे प्रोवाइड अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर बिजनेस एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट. और वहां पे बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज और एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाती है जहां पे हाई डेंसिटी होती है. हाउएवर, ओवर पॉपुलेशन कैन लीड टू कंजेशन, रिसोर्स डिप्लीशन एंड इंक्रीज्ड कंपटीशन फॉर जॉब्स एंड हाउसिंग. तो इसका साइड इफेक्ट भी है. एक तो ओवर पॉपुलेशन अगर कोई एरिया में हो जाता है तो वहां पे कंजेशन हो जाता है, जैसे ट्रैफिक कंजेशन, वाटर का प्रॉब्लम, हाउसिंग का प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है, लोगों को घर नहीं मिलता है, झोपड़पट्टी में रहते हैं वगैरह. Then there is resource depletion. वहां का जो resources है, especially water है and other resources like food या even jobs, तो वहां पे competition बहुत बढ़ जाता है. तो ये significance है पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी का। एक तो अर्बन प्लानिंग होता है, उसकी वजह से इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट होता है। तीसरा एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट, हाई पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी कैन लीड टू एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन इफ रिसोर्सेज आर ओवर एक्सप्लॉइटेड। अगर यहाँ पे बहुत सारे जन एक जगह पे रहता है तो वहां पे एनवायरमेंट पे भी असर करता है उसको। जबकि लो पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी में रिजल्ट इन अंडर यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ लैंड एंड रिसोर्सेज। इसका उल्टा ये भी होता है कि जहाँ पे पॉपुलेशन कम है वहां पे वो लैंड और रिसोर्सेज का अंडर यूटिलाइजेशन होता है, और जहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा है तो वहां पे ओवर यूटिलाइजेशन होता है और वहां पे ओवर एक्सप्लॉइटेड होता है। Fourth significance is social services. Population density helps determine the demand for social services such as healthcare, education, sanitation, and housing. Areas with high density may face challenges in providing these services efficiently. Next, types of population density. First is arithmetic density, second is psychological density, and third is agricultural density. Arithmetic density क्या होता है? This is the simplest form of population density and is calculated as per shown above by dividing total population by total land area. कितना population है उसको divide करो, कितना वो area का size क्या है उससे divide कर दो, तो that is arithmetic density. ठीक है, इसमें ये अकाउंट नहीं करता है कि कितने लोग कौन से एरिया में हैं, ये एवरेज देता है। नेक्स्ट है साइकोलॉजिकल डेंसिटी। दिस मेजर्स द पॉपुलेशन रिलेटिव टू द अमाउंट ऑफ एरेबल लैंड। एरेबल लैंड क्या होता है? वो लैंड जो एग्रीकल्चर के लिए सुटेबल होता है। इट प्रोवाइड्स अ बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ हाउ मच ऑफ द लैंड इज केपेबल ऑफ सस्टेनिंग द पॉपुलेशन फूड नीड्स। ये जो साइकोलॉजिकल डेंसिटी है वो एरेबल एरिया को मेजर करता है, मतलब जहां पे एग्रीकल्चर कितना एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड है वो एरिया को सस्टेन करने के लिए। मतलब सपोज आपका एक स्क्वायर किलोमीटर में से 25% ऑफ 1 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर इज एरेबल, तो वो हिसाब से वो डेंसिटी देखता है कि 25% लैंड 100% वो डेंसिटी को फूड दे सकता है, वो हिसाब से। एग्रीकल्चरल डेंसिटी, this refers to the ratio of number of farmers to the amount of arable land. इसमें क्या होता है कि इस तरह का डेंसिटी कब मेजर करते हैं कि लैंड के हिसाब से, जो फॉर एग्जांपल 25 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का लैंड है जो एरेबल है, एरेबल मीन्स फार्मेबल, उसमें कितने फार्मर्स है वो उतना एरिया के लिए कितने फार्मर्स ले, तो सपोज 2 लाख फार्मर्स है इतना एरिया के लिए, तो एवरेज कितना हुआ तो वो डिवाइड कर देने का। ठीक है, तो फाइनली समझते हैं पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी इज क्रिटिकल। व्हाई वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी इज बिकॉज इट इज अ क्रिटिकल इंडिकेटर यूज्ड इन जियोग्राफी, इकोनॉमिक्स एंड सोशल साइंसेज टू एनालाइज हाउ मेनी पीपल लिव इन अ स्पेसिफिक एरिया। एक स्पेसिफिक एरिया में कितने लोग रहते हैं और उसका इम्प्लीकेशन क्या है रिसोर्सेज पे, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पे और सोसाइटी का डेवलपमेंट पे। बाय अंडरस्टैंडिंग पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी, governments and organizations can make more proper decisions, informed decisions on issues like urbanization कैसे करना है, सिटी का प्लानिंग कैसे करना है, डेवलपमेंट कैसे करना है, रिसोर्स को कैसे मैनेज करना है, वाटर इज अ रिसोर्स तो उसको कैसे मैनेज करेंगे, पब्लिक के पॉलिसीज क्या रहेंगे, वगैरह वगैरह। ठीक है, तो ये कंक्लूड हो गया हमारा पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी। नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट वन, causes of low per capita income in India. Per capita income is a measure. Per capita होता क्या है? Income is the measure of the average income earned by each individual in a specific region. एक पर्टिकुलर जगह पे एक आदमी मतलब एक आदमी ऑन एन एवरेज क्या इनकम जनरेट कर रहा है, ये हम लोग टिपिकली एक साल में देखते हैं कि एक साल में एक पर्सन कितना कमा रहा है ऑन एन एवरेज। ठीक है, उसको बोलते हैं पर कैपिटा इनकम। विल रिवाइज अगेन, पर कैपिटा इनकम इज अ मेजर ऑफ द एवरेज इनकम अर्न्ड बाय ईच इंडिविजुअल इन अ स्पेसिफिक रीजन, टिपिकली on an annual basis, measured in an annual basis. In case of India, despite being one of the fastest growing major economies in the world, its per capita income remains relatively low compared to developed nations. ये तो कॉमन सेंस है. इंडिया का पॉपुलेशन इतना ज्यादा है कि पर कैपिटा एक आदमी कितना कमाता है ऑन एन एवरेज वो बहुत कम हो जाता है. दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. दिस लो पर कैपिटा इनकम इन इंडिया इज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय रेंज ऑफ फैक्टर्स. इसके बहुत सारे कारण हैं कि इंडिया का पर इंडिविजुअल का एक स्पेसिफिक रीजन में कितना लो एवरेज इनकम है. वो इसके कारण क्या है? तो फर्स्ट इज हाई पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ. इंडिया हैज अ लार्ज एंड रैपिडली ग्रोइंग पॉपुलेशन. हम लोग खाली चार देखेंगे, चार कारण देखेंगे इसमें. कारण बहुत सारे हैं बट विल टेक द फर्स्ट फोर. इंडिया हैज अ लार्ज एंड रैपिडली ग्रोइंग पॉपुलेशन. Even though the country's total national income might be increasing. National income क्या होता है? GDP, Gross Domestic Product. वो भले बढ़ता हो, फिर भी इंडिया का पर कैपिटा इनकम वो बहुत कम है because of large and rapidly growing population. The per capita income remains low because it is divided among a large number of people. ये कारण है कि जो टोटल इनकम है बहुत सारे लोगों में डिवाइड हो रहा है on an average. A high population growth rate means that the increase in total income is spread over more people, reducing the average income per person. ये कोई common sense है, mathematics है. Additionally, a large population puts immense pressure on resources, leading to unemployment and underemployment. तो unemployment और underemployment का दूसरा कारण ये भी है कि because of large population, तो इसकी वजह से सबको नौकरी नहीं मिल पाता है. तो हम लोग वी आर स्टडिंग कॉजेज ऑफ लो पर कैपिटा इनकम इन इंडिया. तो इसी के साथ साथ हम लोग वी कैन ऑल्सो यूज दिस पॉइंट इनटू अदर क्वेश्चंस. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल हाई पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ का कारण क्या है, तो ये सारे हम लोग बोल सकते हैं. उसकी इफेक्ट्स क्या है, साइड इफेक्ट्स क्या है, तो हम लोग ऑटोमेटिकली इसका बोल सकते हैं कि हाई पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ की वजह से लो पर कैपिटा इनकम होता है और अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट होता है, अंडर एम्प्लॉयमेंट होता है और पर रिसोर्स पे जो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज है उसके ऊपर काफी प्रेशर आता है. ये सब हम बोल सकते हैं दूसरे क्वेश्चंस में. लो लेवल्स ऑफ ह्यूमन कैपिटल. ह्यूमन कैपिटल रेफर्स टू द स्किल्स, नॉलेज एंड एक्सपीरियंस possessed by individuals. In India, there are significant disparities in education and skill development across regions. तो यहाँ पे हमको देखने को मिलता है एक्चुअली में भी कि एजुकेशन का जो लेवल है वो ऊपर नहीं गया है. देयर आर वेरी गुड इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड देयर आर वेरी मीडियोकर इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो बहुत लो एजुकेशन प्रोवाइड करती है. प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंस नहीं होता है, थियोरिटिकल नॉलेज ज़्यादा होता है वगैरह वगैरह, जिसमें जहाँ पे हाई पॉपुलेशन होता है जिस रीजन में. और लैक ऑफ क्वालिटी एजुकेशन एंड वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग लिमिट्स प्रोडक्टिविटी एंड पोटेंशियल फॉर हायर पेइंग जॉब्स. जब आपको क्वालिटी एजुकेशन नहीं मिलेगा और ट्रेनिंग नहीं मिलेगा तो जो हायर पेइंग जॉब्स है वहां पे आपको पोटेंशियल नहीं होगा, इसलिए ज्यादा अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट दिख रहा है. मैनी पीपल आर एम्प्लॉयड इन लो वेज सेक्टर्स लाइक एग्रीकल्चर which contributes less to the national income per person. तो इसका कारण क्या है लो पर कैपिटा इनकम का? बिकॉज ऑफ लो लेवल ऑफ ह्यूमन कैपिटल. ह्यूमन कैपिटल क्या है? स्किल्स नहीं है, नॉलेज नहीं है, एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, तो ज्यादा कमा नहीं पाते. और क्योंकि हायर पेइंग जॉब्स नहीं मिलता है, बिकॉज फॉर हायर पेइंग जॉब्स यू नीड क्वालिटी एजुकेशन, गुड वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग, and therefore many people are employed in the agriculture sector. Today also in agriculture it is said that as per the survey almost 40% of India's population is in agriculture. 40%, whereas agriculture contributes only 14%, सिर्फ 14% to the GDP, which is very very less considering कितने लोग एग्रीकल्चर में काम कर रहे हैं. एग्रीकल्चर एंड इट्स अलाइड सेक्टर्स. थर्ड देखते हैं डिपेंडेंस ऑन एग्रीकल्चर. लो पर कैपिटा इसकी वजह से भी है क्योंकि मैंने अभी जस्ट बताया 40% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन इज एम्प्लॉयड इन एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर फॉर देयर लाइवलीहुड. A significant portion of India's workforce is employed in agriculture, a sector that generally has low productivity. Agriculture is a low productivity sector, and wages also are very low compared to other sectors like manufacturing or services. The agrarian economy means agricultural economy लीड्स टू लो इनकम फॉर लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. ये भी एक कारण है फॉर लो पर कैपिटा इनकम, स्पेशली सिंस फार्मिंग इज ऑफन सब्सिस्टेंस बेस्ड. सब्सिस्टेंस बेस्ड मीन्स यहाँ पे सब्सिडी देते गवर्नमेंट एंड हाईली डिपेंडेंट ऑन वेदर कंडीशंस एंड गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट. तो फॉर पेस्टिसाइड्स, फॉर high quality seeds, farmers are dependent on governmental support. Even for minimum support price, एक बार फार्मर ने अपना प्रोड्यूस बना दिया, उन्होंने जो वीट बाजरा जो भी उगाना था उगा लिया, फिर उसके लिए ट्रांसपोर्टेशन करना पड़ता है, उसके लिए स्टोरेज करना पड़ता है, तो ये सारी चीज़ें बहुत खर्चा होता है. तो ऑटोमेटिकली उनका पर जीडीपी पर पर्सन जीडीपी जो पर कैपिटा इनकम है, जीडीपी नहीं सॉरी पर कैपिटा इनकम है, वो ऑटोमेटिकली कम हो जाता है बिकॉज लार्ज पॉपुलेशन इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन एग्रीकल्चर. नेक्स्ट जाते इनइक्वालिटी एंड पॉवर्टी. ऑफकोर्स पॉवर्टी होगा तो पर कैपिटा इनकम तो कम होने ही वाला है. और मैनी मेजर पार्ट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन और मेजर पोर्शन ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन इन इंडिया comes below the poverty line. There is a lot of inequality also. Inequality in the sense rich people are owning high percentage of India's wealth. जबकि ऐसे कहा जाता है कि जो टॉप 10% है इंडिया का, they are owning more than 50% of the wealth, whereas 50% of the population उनके पास कुछ भी नहीं है या बहुत कम है. एक्सप्लेनेशन देख लेते हैं. There are large disparities, inequalities in income distribution in India. Income बहुत wide scope होता है. किसी का महीने में they earn like crores or lakhs of rupees, और कोई लोग खाली 12,000 15,000 ऐसे कमाते हैं या 20,000. So there are a lot of disparity between the income earned between the population. While the country has seen significant economic growth, देखा है इंडिया में economic growth, high economic growth, बेनिफिट्स हैव नॉट बीन इक्वली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड. ये कारण है, भले इंडिया का ग्रोथ हुआ हो बट उसका बेनिफिट इक्वली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट नहीं हुआ है. दी वेल्थ गैप बिटवीन रिच एंड पुअर रिमेन्स वाइड. तो वो तो है, अमीर बहुत अमीर है और गरीब बहुत गरीब है. हाई लेवल्स ऑफ इनइक्वालिटी मीन दैट अ स्मॉल परसेंटेज ऑफ पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल्स स्मॉल परसेंटेज, बहुत कम 10% या 5% जो पॉपुलेशन है वो बहुत ज्यादा वेल्थ है उनके पास, जबकि लार्ज सेक्शन ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन के पास जो पॉवर्टी में रहती है उनके पास बहुत कम पैसा है. तो हमने अभी तक कभी सीन 4 पॉइंट्स. कॉजेज ऑफ लो पर कैपिटा क्यों कम है, लोगों का एवरेज इनकम क्यों कम है, क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन बहुत ज्यादा है एक तो वो, फिर ह्यूमन कैपिटल का जो कैपेसिटी है वो बहुत कम है क्योंकि स्किल्स नहीं है, नॉलेज नहीं है वगैरह वगैरह. फिर मेजर पॉपुलेशन इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन एग्रीकल्चर, वो भी एक कारण है जिसकी वजह से लो प्रोडक्टिविटी है. और इनइक्वालिटी एंड पॉवर्टी बहुत ज्यादा है इंडिया में, जिसकी वजह से भी पर कैपिटा इनकम स्क्यूड हो गया है, खराब हो गया है. ऑलराइट, 2 और पॉइंट लेंगे, फिर इसके बाद और नहीं लेते हैं, ये 2 पॉइंट और लेंगे. लो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन. इंडियाज इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर इज स्टिल रिलेटिवली अंडर डेवलप्ड कंपेयर टू India's industrial sector is still relatively underdeveloped compared to the developed nations. Developed nations के comparison में इंडिया का जो industrial sector है वो अभी भी underdeveloped है. The country has a smaller proportion of its workforce engaged in high productivity industries. बहुत कम population है इंडिया का जो high productive industries में employed है. इसकी वजह से क्या हो रहा है, impact ये हो रहा है कि industrial sector generally generates higher income level due to technological advancement, higher productivity and economies of scale. India's reliance on agriculture and small industrial base limits overall productivity which impacts per capita income. इसकी वजह से per capita income पे impact होता है क्योंकि बहुत कम population high quality high productivity industries में employed है. और sixth, we'll go for the sixth one. Limited infrastructure development. Although India has made progress in infrastructure development, many regions still face challenges in terms of basic infrastructure like road, electricity, healthcare and sanitation. पुअर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हैम्पर्स प्रोडक्टिविटी ऑफ बिजनेस, ये कारण है कि जो पुअर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर होगा, रोड्स नहीं होंगे, हॉस्पिटल्स नहीं होगा, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं होगी, तो क्या होगा, प्रोडक्टिविटी नहीं होगा बिजनेसेस का, जिसकी वजह से कॉस्ट इंक्रीज होगा, इन्फ्लेशन होगा, एजुकेशन फैसिलिटीज अच्छी नहीं होगी, हेल्थ केयर अच्छा नहीं होगा, तो इसकी वजह से लोगों के पास पैसे नहीं होंगे, ऑटोमेटिकली फर्दर कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू लोअर पर कैपिटा इनकम इन द रूरल एंड अनडिजर्व्ड एरिया। तो हम लोग ने 6 पॉइंट्स किए, रेस्ट वी विल नॉट डू, we'll cover only 6 points. There are many points, 12 points, but we'll skip all of them. Let's look at the difference between small scale industry and cottage industry. Both small scale industries and cottage industries are important sectors of an economy, especially in developing countries like India. They contribute significantly to employment and production. छोटे छोटे जो इंडस्ट्रीज है और कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज है, उसमें मेजर they employ a lot of people, they employ a major population of people, but they differ in several aspects. अभी इनका distinguish between क्या है, difference क्या है between small scale industry and cottage industry, इसका separate question भी आता है. Small scale industry का एक अलग question आता है, write a note on small scale industry या फिर write a note on cottage industry also. So इसमें हमारे दोनों question हो जाएंगे. पहले डेफिनेशन देख लेते हैं स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री का. SSI, a small scale industry refers to any industrial unit that is characterized by a relatively small investment in terms of capital and production capacity. It typically involves the production of goods and services on a small scale with moderate technology and processes. एक बार फिर से देखते हैं, स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री जो है वो एक ऐसा इंडस्ट्रियल यूनिट है जो बहुत स्मॉल इन्वेस्टमेंट पे काम करता है, उनके कैपिटल भी बहुत कम होता है इन द बिजनेस, एंड देयर प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी इज आल्सो वेरी स्मॉल. सो दैट इज व्हाई इट इज डिफाइंड एज अ स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री, बिकॉज कैपिटल इज वेरी लेस and their production capacity is also very less. It typically involves production of goods and services on a small scale with moderate technology and processes. Cottage industries देख लेते हैं definition. A cottage industry refers to a home based. तो जब भी हम कॉटेज बोलेंगे तो इसका मतलब है कि घर से जो ऑपरेट होता है बिजनेसेस या जो फैमिली ऑपरेटेड बिजनेसेस है, जो फिर से वो भी बहुत स्मॉल स्केल पे है, where production is carried out using simple tools and techniques, simple technology, जो घर से ऑपरेट होता है या होम बेस्ड या फैमिली ऑपरेटेड बिजनेसेस are known as cottage industries. The work is typically done in the household or small workshops with minimal reliance on large scale machinery. तो कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज में हम लोग मैकेनिक का शॉप बोल सकते हैं, या फॉर एग्जांपल देयर इज some stall, tea stalls and all of that. Those are small stalls, but they are family operated or they are home based, like tiffin service and all of that. Investments and capital. Small scale industries generally require a higher investment in machinery, raw material and infrastructure compared to cottage industries, of course, because here we need a kind of a land to employ people, whereas cottage industries में क्या होता है, घर से ऑपरेट होता है, तो वहां पे ज्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट करने का, हाई इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं होता है कंपेयर टू स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री. हियर स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री में वी नीड मशीनरी टू प्रोड्यूस गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज, रॉ मटेरियल्स चाहिए, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए. The capital investment for these industries usually fall under a specified limit. For example, in India, small scale industries are defined as those having investment below 10 crore in plant and machinery. Minimum जो maximum जो investments है plant machinery में is 10 crores to for it to be determined as a small scale industry. I think it starts from 1 crore to 10 crores, minimum 1 crore, maximum 10 crores. तो वो स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री के अंदर आता है, और उसमें वो जो 1 से 10 करोड़ है वो प्लांट मशीनरी के अंदर इन्वेस्टेड होना चाहिए टू बी कैटेगराइज्ड एज अ स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री. जबकि कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज में it does not require a very high capital investments and are typically run by family or from home, and in a very limited scale or a very small scale. These industries often rely on basic tools and local raw materials with minimal machinery or use of less advanced technologies. Production location. Small scale industries usually operate in industrial areas or small factories, though they may still be located in smaller towns or rural areas. They may require a dedicated space or premises for their operation, जबकि कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज में ये सारे रिक्वायरमेंट्स नहीं है क्योंकि ये होम बेस्ड इंडस्ट्री है, तो घर से चलाया जाता है. तो प्रोडक्शन ऑकर्स विद इन द हाउस होल्ड और इन स्मॉल वर्कशॉप अटैच टू द होम. द इंडस्ट्री इन्वॉल्व्स इंडिविजुअल्स और फैमिलीज. उसके अंदर फैमिलीज लोग ही काम करते हैं, घर के लोग ही काम करते हैं. प्रोड्यूसिंग गुड्स फ्रॉम देयर होम्स. पापड़ बनाना है और बहुत सारी, जैसे अचार बनाते हैं घर पे लेडीज लोग वगैरह वगैरह. टिफिन सर्विसेज हैं, वो सब करते हैं यूजिंग बेसिक टूल्स. Employment and workforce. Small scale industry typically employs larger workforce than the cottage industries. Cottage industries में घर के लोग ही काम करते हैं, जबकि small scale industries में it still requires manpower, labor to produce, to work on machineries, to produce goods. They often hire workers for various tasks like production, marketing, and administration. But the workforce is generally smaller than large scale industries, of course. इसमें कोई रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है कि इतने ही लोग काम करने, मिनिमम इतने चाहिए या मैक्सिमम इतने चाहिए, वो उसका लिमिट नहीं है. इसमें लिमिट जो है वो कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट इन मशीनरी एंड क्या था दूसरा, प्लांट एंड मशीनरी. उसमें मिनिमम मैक्सिमम 10 करोड़ के नीचे होना चाहिए, जबकि लेबर फोर्स के लिए उसमें कोई रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. Cottage industries, of course, I said, typically involves family members or local artisans. हम लोग दो और करेंगे. Okay, what we'll do is we'll look at the capital and financial requirement पे पढ़ते हैं. ये important है. Small scale industries often require external financing through loans, grants or investments to meet their capital need for machinery expansion or raw materials. इसके लिए उनको पैसे चाहिए होता है, एक्सटर्नल फाइनेंसिंग चाहिए होता है. जबकि कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज दे वर्क विद मिनिमल कैपिटल एंड दे रिलाई ऑन दी फैमिली का सेविंग्स पे ही और स्मॉल लोन्स. दे आर यूजुअली सेल्फ फाइनेंस्ड एंड डिपेंड ऑन वेरी लिमिटेड एक्सटर्नल फंडिंग. मार्केट देख लेते हैं उसका. मार्केट क्या है? स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज यूजुअली सर्व ए लार्जर मार्केट which could include national or international buyers. They can distribute goods through wholesalers, retailers or direct sales. जबकि cottage industries being a family owned business, it only caters to or targets local or niche market. अपने खुद के एरिया में ही वो लोग मार्केटिंग करते हैं उसका. They may sell products through direct selling, markets or small retailers. The target audience is often specific to those interested in handicraft or unique items. तो यहाँ पे हमारा ये क्वेश्चन कंप्लीट हो गया. दिस इज द समरी. यू कैन पॉज द वीडियो एंड लुक एट द समरी. ओके, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज डिफरेंस बिटवीन डायरेक्ट टैक्स एंड इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स. इन द अर्लियर वीडियोज वी हैड लुक्ड एट डायरेक्ट टैक्सेस like income tax, wealth tax, property tax, gift tax. We had studied in the earlier video. Now we are doing the comparison between direct tax and indirect tax. So taxes are the primary source of revenue for governments. ये primary source है government का, important source है. First source of tax है for the government, both direct and indirect taxes, and are classified into two broad categories: direct tax and indirect taxes. Both serve to generate government income for the government, but they differ in terms of who bears the tax burden. उनमें मेन डिफरेंस जो है कि टैक्स का जो बर्डन है वो कौन भरता है, कौन लेता है. बट दोनों केसेस में डायरेक्ट टैक्स और इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में अल्टीमेटली द इंडिविजुअल ओनली इज गोइंग टू पे, बट हाउ इट इज पेड डिफर्स. दैट इज हु पेज इट टू द गवर्नमेंट. तो जो डायरेक्ट टैक्स होता है वो डायरेक्ट इंडिविजुअल भरता है, इंडिविजुअल बिजनेसेस और फर्म्स टू द गवर्नमेंट. Whereas indirect tax जो होता है वो is collected from the taxpayer and paid by the producer or the seller to the government. So what is the main difference is who bears the tax burden, how they are collected, and their impact on the economy. Let's look at the definition of direct tax and indirect tax. A direct tax is a tax that is levied, that is imposed on directly on the income, wealth और property. अभी तो wealth पे तो होता नहीं है, तो क्योंकि वो abolish हो गया है 2015 के बाद, तो we can still say on the wealth, wealth or property of an individual. Okay, so direct tax. So direct tax is a tax that is levied directly on the income or the property of individuals or organizations. The burden of this tax cannot be shifted to others. The person or entity on whom the tax is imposed is responsible for paying it. Whereas in the indirect tax, tax is levied on goods and services rather than on income or wealth. The burden of indirect tax can be shifted from the producer or seller to the consumer as it is included in the price of the goods or services. But the tax is although collected from the consumer but is paid by the producer. तो डायरेक्ट टैक्स जो होता है वो एक इंडिविजुअल भरेगा, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भरेगा टू द गवर्नमेंट, और वो जो डायरेक्ट टैक्स है वो उसके इनकम पे या उसके प्रॉफिट्स पे चार्ज होता है. ये टैक्स जो है वो शिफ्ट नहीं कर सकते दूसरे के ऊपर. जिसके ऊपर लायबिलिटी है, जिसके ऊपर जिसको भरना है, जिसके ऊपर इम्पोज किया है टैक्स, उसी को भरना है. जबकि इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स जो है वो इट्स अ टैक्स बर्डन विच इज शिफ्टेड फ्रॉम द प्रोड्यूसर ऑन टू द कंज्यूमर और टू द सेलर, प्रोड्यूसर और सेलर टू द कंज्यूमर, और ये जो टैक्स है वो प्राइस के अंदर ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड होता है. नेक्स्ट, बर्डन ऑफ टैक्स. Direct tax, the burden of direct tax falls directly on the taxpayer and it cannot be transferred to anyone else. वो हमने already पढ़ चुके ऊपर. The burden of an indirect tax can be shifted from the producer or seller to the consumer. For example, the seller may increase the price of a product to include the tax amount, passing the burden to the buyer. मतलब क्या करेंगे, वो प्राइस के अंदर ही वो टैक्स अमाउंट को भी कलेक्ट कर लेंगे, जिसकी वजह से वो जो टैक्स का बर्डन है वो बायर के ऊपर चला जाएगा, एंड द सेलर और द प्रोड्यूसर विल कलेक्ट द टैक्स फ्रॉम द कंज्यूमर एंड पे टू द गवर्नमेंट एज अ काइंड ऑफ अ इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स. अभी इंपॉर्टेंट है ये तीसरा वाला एग्जांपल्स डायरेक्ट टैक्स के. एक तो इनकम टैक्स है, वेल्थ टैक्स है, मैंने बताया वेल्थ टैक्स एबॉलिश हो गया है. कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स एंड प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स. कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स जो है वो कंपनीज भरेगी, इनकम टैक्स जो है वो इंडिविजुअल्स और बिजनेसेस भरेगा, और जो प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स है वो प्रॉपर्टी का जो भी ओनर है वो भरेगा प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स. तो ये डायरेक्ट टैक्स के 3-4 एग्जांपल्स हैं. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स के एग्जांपल है जीएसटी, वैट अभी भी है, स्पेशली ऑन अल्कोहल प्रोडक्ट्स, ऑन लिकर. ये अभी भी वैट लगता है, मुझे लगता है, शायद आई बिलीव दैट वैट इज स्टिल एप्लीकेबल on the liquors. Goods and service tax जो होता है वो it is applicable on the sale of all kinds of goods and services. Value added tax is added at each stage of production or distribution. ये जो होता है ये पहले था, इसके बाद GST has replaced VAT. Excise duty क्या होता है? It is tax on the production or manufacture of goods. जब कोई भी गुड्स मैन्युफैक्चर हो रहा है या प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं तो उसके ऊपर जो टैक्स लगता है उसको एक्साइज ड्यूटी बोलते हैं, और कस्टम्स ड्यूटी बोलते हैं जो टैक्स लगता है इंपोर्ट्स और एक्सपोर्ट्स पे, जो कंट्री के बाहर जाता है या कंट्री के अंदर आता है, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज, दैट इज कस्टम्स ड्यूटी. अभी कलेक्शंस देखते हैं. कलेक्शन कौन करता है? तो डायरेक्ट टैक्स आर कलेक्टेड डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द टैक्स पेयर टू द गवर्नमेंट, डायरेक्टली पेड बाय द टैक्स पेयर टू द गवर्नमेंट. This could be through withholding tax, टैक्स रोक के रखना, एडवांस टैक्स पेमेंट्स करना, एडवांस में टैक्स भरना एवरी क्वार्टर, और एनुअल टैक्स रिटर्न, दैट इज योर इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस जो है दे आर कलेक्टेड फ्रॉम द कंज्यूमर्स व्हेन दे परचेज गुड्स और सर्विसेज. ये जो है प्रोड्यूसर्स जो है या सेलर्स है या सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स जो है, दे कलेक्ट द टैक्स एंड पास इट टू द गवर्नमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ जीएसटी और टैक्स डिडक्टेड एट सोर्स, ये पहले ही ले लेते हैं. We'll look at impact on prices also. Direct taxes do not directly affect the prices of goods, of course, because it is not added in the goods and services of the producer. जबकि indirect tax direct it affects the price level of goods and services because the tax is already added in the price. So the consumer is bearing the burden of the higher price. Progressiveness, ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. ये आता है सेपरेटली. प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स, एक रिग्रेसिव टैक्स होता है, एक प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स होता है. तो डायरेक्ट टैक्स जो होता है, इट इज कंसिडर्ड एज प्रोग्रेसिव इन नेचर. व्हाई इज इट कॉल्ड प्रोग्रेसिव? इज बिकॉज जैसे जैसे जो टैक्स पेयर है उसका इनकम बढ़ता है तो उसका टैक्स रेट भी बढ़ता है. तो इफ यू आर इन अ लोअर इनकम टैक्स ब्रैकेट देन योर income tax liability decreases, but as your income increases your tax liability also increases. That is why it is said progressive. जो लोग कम कमाते हैं उनको कम भरने का, जो लोग ज्यादा कमाते हैं उन लोग ज्यादा भरेंगे. wealthier individuals, जो high net worth individuals है या businesses है, they pay a higher percentage of their income or assets in taxes. जबकि indirect tax जो होता है, it is considered as regressive. Why? Because even the rich people and the poorest of poor, अगर एक पार्ले जी बिस्किट लेते हैं तो एक अमीर आदमी जो करोड़ों कमाता है और एक गरीब आदमी जो few hundreds या thousands कमाता है, both will pay the same amount of tax regardless of their income level. So that is why it is said as it is a regressive tax. Meaning उसका भी पूरा पढ़ के जाते हैं. Indirect taxes are generally regressive or regressive, meaning they take a large percentage of income from lower income individuals because they pay the same tax rate regardless of income. Indirect taxes disproportionately affect people with lower incomes. तो ये मैंने दोनों क्लियर कर दिया. प्रोग्रेसिवनेस का ये इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, इसको सेपरेट भी आता है. एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन नहीं करेंगे हम लोग, टैक्स पेयर भी नहीं करेंगे. दिस इज ऑल्सो ऑलरेडी कवर्ड that it is paid by direct tax is paid by individuals or entities or businesses. Indirect taxes is paid by the consumers or the end users. ये ऑलरेडी हम लोग ने कवर कर दिया है. Elasticity will not cover. Okay, flexibility देखते हैं. Direct taxes are generally more flexible and is adjusted according to the income level. Income level के हिसाब से डायरेक्ट टैक्स कम भरना पड़ता है या ज्यादा भरना पड़ता है. बिजनेस में अगर प्रॉफिट ज्यादा हुआ है तो ज्यादा टैक्स होगा, कम प्रॉफिट हुआ तो कम टैक्स. तो इट इज दैट इज व्हाई इट सेज इट इज फ्लेक्सिबल. ओके, एंड इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस इज नॉट फ्लेक्सिबल एट ऑल बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट हैज ऑलरेडी फिक्स्ड परसेंटेज कि 18% टैक्स इलेक्ट्रॉनिक गुड्स पे लगेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल 5% लगेगा necessity goods पे like milk, agriculture, like for daily needs ka, all those things. So that is already fixed. So that is why they say it is not flexible. ठीक है. So we have completed direct and indirect tax comparison. We completed the difference between direct tax and indirect tax. Alright, I'll just leave the screen here for a few minutes. You can go through this, the main summary points. Okay, I'll move on next. Short term market versus long term market, ये भी बहुत important question है. Next we are starting on short term market versus long term market. तो इसके पहले हमने ना एक दूसरा मार्केट किया था, कैपिटल मार्केट एंड मनी मार्केट, in previous videos. That is also very interesting. I recommend you watching that videos also in the previous. I think it's a third or the fourth video, but that also is very interesting to learn. So here in this part, in this question, we are going to learn about short-term market versus long-term market. Of course, by immediate inference, we can see short-term means it will be less than 1 year, and long-term market means more than 1 year. That is what it would mean at the first look. So let's understand this. Markets can be categorized based on the time frame over which they operate. The two primary types are the short term market and the long term market. These markets differ in terms of their time horizon for economic decisions, the factors influencing supply and demand, and how prices adjust in response to changes. अब जो मैंने पहले वीडियो में मनी मार्केट की बात की थी, मनी मार्केट एंड कैपिटल मार्केट, that was related with the money, the capital part. Here we are talking about the actual goods and services, supply and demand in this type of markets. Actual market के अंदर क्या होता है? So let us look at the definition of a short term and a long term market. Again, इसमें क्या होगा कि we can also use this learning that we are doing in this particular question. For example, they can tell us write a short note on short term market or define short term market. तो उसके अंदर ये यहाँ पे 2 मार्क इजीली मिल सकता है. लॉन्ग टर्म मार्केट क्या होता है, शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट क्या होता है. Even if we know, even if we just understand what is short term market and long term market, that can also help us to write something about it and score marks. ठीक है, let's start with the definition of what is a short term market. पहले समझते हैं कि short term market है क्या. तो एक short term market refers to a period time, that is where the supply and demand for goods, services or financial assets adjust quickly, typically within a short period ranging from a few days to a few months. The capacity to change production or supply is limited in short run due to constraints such as existing resources or contracts. तो एक बार फिर से समझ जाते हैं कि जो शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट होता है उसके अंदर जो सप्लाई होता है और डिमांड जो होता है वो बहुत जल्दी चेंज होता है इन शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट्स. तो सप्लाई ऑल्सो will adjust quickly to the demand and demand will adjust quickly to the supply. So वो शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट होता है और ये जनरली फ्यू डेज में हो जाता है या फ्यू मंथ्स के अंदर हो जाता है. अभी शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में क्या होता है, जो प्रोडक्शन है या जो सप्लाई है वो एडजस्ट हो जाता है एज पर द डिमांड एंड सप्लाई इन द मार्केट एंड एज पर द एग्जिस्टिंग रिसोर्सेज और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स. बस यही है, इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल डेफिनेशन. Whereas in long-term market, the period where changes in supply and demand occur over a much longer time horizon, typically several years. ये इसको example से हमको समझ में आएगा कि exactly what are they talking about. In the long run, producers and consumers have more time to adjust. अभी short term में adjustment का time नहीं मिलता है क्योंकि फटाफट change होता है. अगर for example टोमेटोज का एक example लेते हैं, टोमेटोज का भाव बढ़ गया तो इमीडिएटली उसका इम्पैक्ट आता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ डिमांड. तो भाव बढ़ गया टमाटो का तो टमाटो का डिमांड कम हो जाएगा. So this can happen over a few days to a few weeks also. But for example एक लग्जरी कुछ पर्स ले लेते हैं या लग्जरी गुड्स ले लेते हैं या नॉन नेसेसिटी आइटम ले लेते हैं, तो उसमें क्या होगा, इवन इफ द प्राइस चेंजेस उसका डिमांड बहुत फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, ओवर द लॉन्ग टर्म उसका फर्क आएगा. बट इट विल बी मोर क्लियर बाय लुकिंग एट मोर एग्जांपल्स. Okay, so a long-term market refers to a period where changes in supply and demand occur over a much longer time horizon. जो changes है supply और demand में वो बहुत लंबे समय के बाद दिखाई देता है, typically several years. In long run, producers and consumers have more time to adjust क्योंकि बहुत slowly changes होती है, तो इसके लिए consumers and producers both can adjust. And the factors of production can be varied. ठीक है, टाइम पीरियड देखते हैं. टाइम पीरियड इज जनरली फॉर शॉर्ट टर्म फ्यू डेज टू फ्यू मंथ्स एंड लॉन्ग टर्म इज सेवरल इयर्स और इवन डिकेड्स. 10 साल भी लग सकता है वो चेंजेस को आने में मार्केट में. ऑलराइट, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी. शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में जो फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन है, वी नो दैट देयर आर 4 फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, 4 फैक्टर्स, लैंड, लेबर, कैपिटल एंड रिसोर्सेज. यहाँ पे 3 दिए हैं बट देयर आर 4 ऑफ देम, लैंड, लेबर, कैपिटल एंड रिसोर्सेज. They are somewhat fixed in the short term. Businesses may not be able to adjust their capacity quickly due to the limitation in plant size, existing labor contracts or availability of capital. तो short run में जो होता है short term market में, factors of production are not flexible because उसको instantly change नहीं कर सकते हैं. Land आप immediately बेच नहीं सकते हो, labor suddenly नहीं लेके आ सकते हो, capital भी raise नहीं कर सकते हो. तो in short term it is less flexible. whereas in long term market all factors of production are variable, क्योंकि बहुत टाइम है तो लैंड बढ़ सकता है, कम हो सकता है, लेबर भी घट सकता है, बढ़ सकता है, एंड कैपिटल ऑल्सो कैन बी रेज्ड. Firms have the ability to adjust their production capacity, invest in new technologies, hire or lay off laborers, and acquire new resources or capital, जो अभी मैंने एक्सप्लेन किया. ओके, सप्लाई का देखते हैं. सप्लाई का कैसे, इधर क्या होता है सप्लाई में, शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में द सप्लाई कर्व इज इन इलास्टिक, मीन्स सप्लाई डज नॉट मूव मच इन शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट, और इट इज रिलेटिवली रिजिड बिकॉज फर्म्स कैन नॉट क्विकली इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज प्रोडक्शन इन शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट. तो इसमें जो फर्स्ट पॉइंट हमने पढ़ा था, तो वील हैव टू रीकैप दिस. इन शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट द पीरियड वेयर द सप्लाई एंड डिमांड फॉर गुड्स, सर्विसेज और फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स they adjust quickly. अच्छा, डिमांड क्विकली एडजस्ट होता है बट सप्लाई क्विकली एडजस्ट नहीं होता है. ओके, सो द फर्स्ट पॉइंट वाज मोर टुवर्ड्स द डिमांड, where the supply and demand for goods, services or financial assets adjust quickly, typically within a short range. और इधर सप्लाई का जो एडजस्टमेंट है वो क्या बोल रहे हैं यहाँ पे, इट इज inelastic, means it does not move much or it is relatively rigid, fixed है, because firms cannot make quick increase or decrease in production. Any increase in demand may result in higher prices rather than an immediate increase in quantity supplied. For example, यहाँ पे क्या बोलना चाहते हैं कि अगर सपोज डिमांड इंक्रीज हुआ तो सप्लायर इमीडिएटली उसको सप्लाई मतलब ज्यादा सामान या माल सामान बेच के उसको वो डिमांड को कवर अप नहीं कर सकते शॉर्ट रन में या शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में. तो उसके बदले क्या होता है, ऑटोमेटिकली क्या होता है, प्राइसेस बढ़ता है उसकी वजह से. फॉर एग्जांपल, वंस अगेन आई रिपीट, अगर डिमांड बढ़ रहा है शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में तो सप्लाई नहीं बढ़ेगा इमीडिएट वो बेसिस पे. उसके बदले क्या होगा, बिकॉज देयर इज अ शॉर्टेज ऑफ सप्लाई एंड द डिमांड इज इंक्रीजिंग, देयरफॉर द प्राइस विल इंक्रीज. ओके, बट लॉन्ग टर्म मार्केट में क्या होता है, द सप्लाई कर्व इज मोर इलास्टिक इन द लॉन्ग रन, फ्लेक्सिबल है, as firms can adjust their production and capacity. In the long term, changes in demand, अगर demand में कोई changes आया है, will lead to an increase in supply also, as the new firms enter the market or existing firms expand. तो यहाँ पे प्राइस बढ़ेगा नहीं, जबकि डिमांड अगर बढ़ रहा है तो सप्लाई भी इंक्रीज होगा और प्राइस स्टेबल रहेगा या प्राइस को ज्यादा फ्लक्चुएशन में नहीं आएगा. Okay, price adjustments I think is important. We'll cover this also. In short-term market, prices are influenced by demand side factor. Okay, because we saw the first point was demand and the fourth point was supply flexibility. तो डिमांड से शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में प्राइस इन्फ्लुएंस होता है. सीजनल फ्लक्चुएशंस होगा या टेम्पररी शॉर्टेज होगा तो प्राइस में फ्लक्चुएशन होगा शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में, या कंज्यूमर प्रेफरेंसेस चेंज हो जाएंगे तो भी शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में प्राइस बढ़ेगा या कम होगा. क्योंकि व्हाई डज द प्राइस इंक्रीज, बिकॉज द सप्लाई साइड कैन नॉट एडजस्ट क्विकली. वो इंपॉर्टेंट है समझना. लॉन्ग टर्म मार्केट में क्या होता है, बोथ सप्लाई एंड डिमांड दे एडजस्ट ईच अदर, दे कवर अप ईच अदर. जैसे डिमांड बढ़ेगा तो सप्लाई भी लॉन्ग रन में बढ़ेगा, तो प्राइस में ज्यादा इंफ्लुएंस नहीं होगा प्राइस के ऊपर. So price is more elastic. Firms can adjust their production techniques and introduce new products or services, leading to price changes over a longer period. Okay, we are not covering these parts. Examples देखते हैं. Examples are important to understand short-term market. The holiday season demand for products like toys or electronics where supplies cannot easily adjust to the sudden surge in demand. तो ये शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट बोलेंगे इसको. लॉन्ग टर्म मार्केट, फॉर एग्जांपल शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में जब कोविड आया था तो ऑल ऑफ अ सडन शॉर्टेज हो गया था क्योंकि लॉकडाउन हो गया था. तो दैट वाज अ शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट. सडनली देयर वाज अ सप्लाई साइड कॉन्स्ट्रेंट, सप्लाई नहीं हो रहा था. लॉन्ग टर्म मार्केट में क्या होता है, जैसे रियल एस्टेट मार्केट है, कैपिटल मार्केट है, वेयर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स एंड प्रोडक्शन adjustments are made over several years, and long-term trends such as population growth or technological advancement have more influence. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है लॉन्ग टर्म में, कि because you have a lot of time, years, so demand and supply will adjust to each other. They will come into equilibrium. That is the correct word, equilibrium. So this ends our this part of the question answer about short-term market versus long-term market. This is the synopsis of the summary table of the short-term versus long-term market. Okay, I'll close the video here. We'll meet back in the next video. Thank you very much for listening. Take care. Bye bye.